So if you ever wish that you could hop in a time machine and travel back in time to 2016, the height of the YouTube beauty community, well, you're in luck because ABH has re-released their Master Palette by Mario, which was the collaboration they did with Mario Dedivanovic. I think I said that correctly. Only it doesn't look like this anymore. So they have basically re-released it as the Embers palette, which is one of their little 9 pans. So in this video, I will be doing some side-by-side comparisons between the Master Palette by Mario and the Embers palette. So I will have a swatching portion where I show you that. And then I also thought it would be really interesting to compare kind of the 2016 version of the Mario palette with the new Ethereal Eyes Nature palette. So both of these have a similar color story. They're not exact kind of replicas. So that is what those look like kind of next to each other. So I'll have a swatching portion where I compare the new Embers palette to the Makeup by Mario palette, which looks like that if you're unfamiliar. So I'll show you that. I'll also show you swatches, up-close swatches of the Mario palette swatched next to the Embers palette. And then I will also have a demo portion where I do an eye look with the Embers palette / the Master Palette by Mario palette on one side, and the new 2025 Ethereal Eyes palette by Makeup by Mario on the other side. So if that all sounds good to you, make sure to like and subscribe. I do lots of eyeshadow content on my channel, and that way I guess I haven't really left 2016, but I will have timestamps down below if you'd like to jump ahead to a particular portion. So with all that being said, let's get into the swatches. All right, so let's go over some basic information about these palettes before I get into the swatches. So the palette right in front of you is the ABH Embers palette. This retails for $32. This is a talc-free palette, if that's important to you. And I've already taken it out of the box a couple times, so that's why there are any fingerprints. They are mine. But it says the Embers Mini Eyeshadow Palette contains 9 full pigment shades ranging from warm neutrals to rich, bold hues in matte and metallic finishes. This essential mini eyeshadow collection features ABH's highly pigmented, easy-to-blend formula and offers a versatile color range for creating everything from subtle to dramatic eye looks. So you get 9 shadows, and the total weight, I'm not entirely sure I know how to decipher this, but it says 9 times 0.04 ounces / 1.11 grams. So I would think each shadow is 1.11 grams is what would make sense to me. But in any case, this was made in the US and it has a 12-month shelf life. So we don't have any shade names. They're just numbered A1, A2, A3, B1, B2, B3, C1, C2, C3. And we are getting, I think, 3 matte shades and 9 metallics. So let's go back in time to 2016, which is when this Master Palette by Mario in collaboration with ABH launched. And as many people correctly pointed out, this new palette does bear a marked resemblance to this older palette. So like I said, this came out in 2016. It retailed for $45 for 12 shadows plus a brush. So you are losing 3 of these shadows, but I think for almost 10 years later and only 3 fewer shadows, spending about $12, $13 less, I think is a pretty good deal. And these are plastic, they have a mirror, they're magnetic, so I really like these little palettes from ABH. If I didn't already say, I have, I think, all of the ones that have come out in the States so far, and I have, I think, videos about all of these. So the first set to come out were the kind of mini sizes of the Sultry and Modern Renaissance, which were 12 pan, I think, palettes from ABH back in the day. And then they came out with the Sugar and Spice, I think, last year. I think there was one other palette that came out in Asia maybe, but I don't think we got that one. So pulling this one out of the package, and this is cardboard. This one, it had a 6-month shelf life, and it was made in the USA as well. So this one just says a special edition eyeshadow collection created with celebrity makeup artist Mario Dedivanovic. Did I do that okay? The palette contains 12 neutral and jewel-toned shades in a range of matte to metallic finishes. And I'm just scanning the ingredients. I'm not sure if this older formula or older palette contained talc. The brush, by the way, is made in the PRC. I'm not seeing it leap out at me, but that is the difference there. And each of these shadows was 0.7 grams, so you did get, I think, less product per shade. Obviously, they got rid of the shade names or changed those, but yeah, just to give you the kind of side-by-side comparison there. I'll cover up the mirrors here. And just briefly to tell you about this new palette before I return to swatch those. So this one, you are getting 12 by 1.3 grams, so you are getting more product. I'll put the total comparison down at the bottom, but yeah, you are getting more product in this one. This retails for $69. It does contain talc, again, if that is important to you. And I think both this and the ABH palette are limited edition. The other way is better, I think. And this does have a 12-month shelf life, and it was made in the US. So this one, it has a plastic package, and I do have his just like all matte palette. So pretty, I think, similar package to that. This is the Master Mattes, the neutrals. So there's that, and then his 2 Ethereal Eyes palettes. So unfortunately, the original, I think, is the one that had the nicest packaging, which he subsequently got rid of. And this is the Moonlight. So I think a lot of people have compared those palettes, so I don't want to kind of redo what someone else has already done. But yeah, this one you get 5 mattes essentially, so you are getting a few more mattes compared to this palette. And this one, it says, a new palette inspired by the power of nature's seasonal renewal with 12 universal neutrals and 4 finishes to create ultimate versatile looks. This limited edition palette is Mario's artistic vision come to life with sunlit, earthy tones found in nature at its most magical. The shades provide light, buildable coverage and are blendable, long-wearing, and versatile. The glossy shimmers have a first-of-its-kind formula infused with pearls to impart a reflective, wet-like shine on the lids. The suede satins have a smooth suede texture with a demi-silky sheen that provides subtle luminosity. The suede matte has an enhanced grip and rich color. The natural metallics contain micronized pigments for metallic shine. And in the shade descriptions, we have satins, we have shimmers, we have mattes, and we have metallics. Is that 4 different formulas? So anyway, we will come back and do some comparison swatches for that palette. But let's get into these two. So I think visually you can probably tell which shades are going to be the same. I think we might be losing Hollywood, NYC, and Marina, maybe? I think we have everything else, but I think I'm going to swatch these. You can see I got a lot of use out of this palette. But yeah, I'm going to swatch these, and then I'm going to try and match these up with those shades. And then I'm going to remove these older swatches. I'll remove 1/2, I'm not sure which one. But yeah, I'll remove some of those swatches, and then I'll try to see what is similar in the new Mario palette. Okay, so I don't have the shade descriptions for this older palette. So we have Hollywood, NYC, and Kim. like so. So keep in mind, this palette is like almost 10 years old. Okay, and next up we have Muse, Marina, and Claudia. All right, and then the second row we have Lula, Isabel, and Violetta. I think those are all three matte. And then lastly, we have Fifth Avenue, Bronx, and Paris. So yeah, definitely a bit crumbly there. So those are the original Makeup by Mario shades. Okay, so let's do the easy ones first. So this green, C1 is a metallic olive green, and C2 is a metallic smoldering bluish green. So those are the two there. And I'm not gonna try to compare formulas too much because, like I said, this other one is much older, but the new ones are swatching a lot better, I think. And then I think these three mattes, so I think, let's see, I think the ones that they excluded were all metallics. So I'm pretty sure we have B2, which is a matte burnt peach. A3 is a matte dusty taupe. And C3 is a matte toasted brown. So, make sure I get the right finger underneath the right shadow. So yeah, so those are the first five. This burgundy, I'm pretty sure is the shade Muse. So I think it's going to be this one right here, which is a metallic rich molten brown, according to them. Or do we think it's this one, NYC? I think maybe it's NYC. Okay, and then the remaining three are the three that are the most kind of neutral. So we have A1, which is a metallic pale champagne gold. Like so. I think maybe it's that one. Is that Fifth Avenue? I feel like I'm playing Battleship or something. So yeah, so that one looks like it's Fifth Avenue. And then I think we have Paris. We'll always have Paris. So that one I think is this one right here, which is a metallic gilded bronze. I'm pretty sure it's this one. Like so. And then the last one here, it might be the shade Kim. So A2 is a metallic amber gold. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's gonna be this one. So that's side-by-side comparison. So I think I was a little off maybe. That one is Hollywood, that one is Muse, and that one is Marina. I'm not sure if that's what I said up front or not, but I do like that shade Marina. I think maybe I would have preferred that to Fifth Avenue, which is this one down here. A little bit more kind of cool toned. Of course, everything looks pretty chunky from age, but... so I think we've established that this is pretty much the reincarnation of the Makeup by Mario palette. I think I'm going to remove the new palette just so we have more shades that we can compare. And the other one did have Mario's name on it. I might need to get some micellar water or something. Normally I use dish soap to remove swatches, but obviously it's a little bit more difficult when I'm only removing half of them without rubbing my arm raw. All right, so let's talk about the Ethereal Eyes palette here. So I'm not suggesting that Mario set out to recreate his 2016 palette with ABH, although I think color story wise there is definitely some similarities, but quite a few brands have been incorporating olive, which I think is really interesting just as kind of a trend. So really I'm just curious here. And we do have a lot more finishes in this palette as well. So what do we want to do first? I'm going to swatch the green. So Mario calls this one a shimmering golden olive. So let's see how that one looks compared to this one. Yeah, they're a lot more yellow. I think it's more reflective as well. Let's compare the brown with his embossing in it. So this one is a matte mahogany brown, pretty deep. A brown is a brown to some extent, but and for this other one, there's no kind of burnt peach, pumpkin-y type color. So let's see. I'll swatch these two mattes. We do also have a few more mattes, I think. So this one is kind of in between. This one up here, EEN2, is a shimmering peach champagne. That's pretty bright. Let's see how this one looks next to this one. Yeah, much brighter. Some of his kind of sparkling shades are kind of deceptive. Let's take a look at this burgundy. So this is a metallic bronze burgundy. And this one, I mean, that one's not too far off actually. I'll have to make myself a cheat sheet for which shades from the Mario palette are repeats because I keep getting this one confused between NYC and Muse. But yeah, this one does look a bit like Muse. There's no real blue to speak of in this palette, but we do have some other kind of bronzy metallic shades. So this one is a 6 shimmering rose gold, like so, which actually looks a little bit more copper maybe. I'm going to swatch it next to Marina. Similar, not exact. And then the other two I think I have left here. This one is a shimmering taupe. I think it still leans a bit olive in my opinion. And then the one down on the bottom row is a shimmering golden bronze, which is also kind of olivey. So I'm going to swatch that one. Similar color, but more kind of a sheer And yeah, that one is, I think, much different. So I think that's as well as I can do here. Like I said, we don't have this kind of orangey pumpkin shade. We don't have a blue. Was it this one I just swatched? You could also compare it next to that one. Yeah. So I'll give you guys a close up. Let me know how I did. So I think the true question will be how they look on the eyes. All right, so let me get cleaned up and I will meet you back for the demo. So I haven't primed my eyelids yet, so I'm going to go in with the Hourglass Veil eyeshadow primer. I know ABH has a primer and Mario has that little kind of priming palette, which I guess he still sells, but I figured to give both kind of formulations or whatever a fighting chance, I'll just use one that I'm pretty familiar with and have used successfully with a lot of different formulas. So start off by applying this to the lid. And then I often like to set my powder, so I'm just going to do a loose dusting of the Kosas powder on both sides with my Sonia G brush here, just to provide the same kind of blank canvas for each. I think I'll start off with the Embers palette, so the 2016 Master Palette by Mario. So by now you've seen those comparison swatches, and I kind of laid it out for myself, I guess, which ones I wanted to use here. So I want to kind of go for a similar look on both eyes. I want to make use of the green in each palette, but the point of this kind of comparison and demo is really not to recreate the exact look. It's just to kind of show you the difference in the vibe, I guess I would say. So I'm going to start off with this shade here, which I think was Lula in the original, and using my classic crease brush, going into that shade, just tap off any excess. And which eye do I want to do this on? I'll do the left eye. So just providing a bit of dimension in the crease to get us started. And then I'm also going to take my little flat definer brush and run that same shade underneath. You can see it's a little bit more pigmented with a more defined brush. So I think I might kind of go back and forth just so you can kind of see the eye looks build in real time rather than do one eye look and then the other. And I want to go in with one of these two shades. So this one or this one. The color match is not exact. I think I might do that shade. So this is the EEN 8 shade. I might just kind of refer to them by number. And I am using the same brush, which is shedding, but wiping it off in between shadows on my Sigma switch. So kind of going with the same basic format here. Like so. I could probably build that side up a little bit more. Like so. I think this one is a tad warmer. The other one has a little bit more yellow in it. And then I'll take my mini booster here and going back to this Embers palette. So I think I want to take this dark brown in the corner, which was Violetta in the Makeup by Mario, and have to make sure I do the right side. So just place a little bit more in the kind of outer V area. Normally I would not kind of use a palette mirror to actually do my eyeshadow. I'm going to take off this ABH sticker because it's annoying me. Yeah, normally I would use a bigger mirror and just keep my palette on my vanity here, but I think it is helpful to kind of keep track of what I'm doing. Okay, so going into this corner shade, which has the Mario, or had the Mario embossing, just tapping off a little bit on my hand, so I'm not going in too intense. This is a nicer mirror, I will say that. It's bigger, obviously. Okay, so I think somehow I build up a lot more with the Mario. Let me apply more of this shade before I blend a bit more. The Mario might be a tad darker anyway, or more pigmented. But yeah, this is definitely a warmer shade on this side. So I'm going to take my classic crease, and I think I'm just going to kind of use that clean for now. So just kind of blending what I've already done. Alrighty, another brush here. It might be time for me to replace these brushes. I have had them for several years now and use them almost kind of exclusively for my eye looks. And I don't wash my brushes every time I use them, obviously, but they have been washed quite a few times. So I don't think the greens are that similar, but I do want to incorporate greens into this look. So I'm going to use this green shade down here, which was the shade Bronx, and take that on a Rephr 28. And I'm going to go, I think, like 2/3 of the way in. It looks like I might have a tiny bit of, I can't tell if that's fallout or a freckle. The green shade has pretty good coverage. The ABH palette basically just has mattes and metallics, so you don't have as much variety. And then the Mario, I'm going to start off with the one down here, which is, I think, the more olivey. And again, I'm just cleaning off my brush in between. So going in with that more olivey green, I might layer it. So I think tone-wise, those are fairly similar. Like that one is obviously kind of more sheer in nature, so I think the undertone is very similar though. Okay. This green, I already showed you in the swatches, but that is much more kind of a vibrant, almost duochrome green. So I might go in with some of that, I might not. Okay, so next up, I want to take the shade Paris in the original, which is this one right here, I believe. And I'm going to apply that kind of the inner. Oh, that's darker than I remember. It's been a few days since I filmed the swatches, but I mean, it still looks good. I think, you know, we're kind of going for a fairly typical kind of green-brown color story. So that is the brown. And on the other side, taking this shade here and going in. Oh, definitely got some fallout there. That wasn't really fallout, that was just kind of a chunk of shadow. All right, and then the very last color that I wanted to make sure that I did include is this lightest shimmer color. So I might apply that with a finger, actually. And this isn't really a topper shade. I'm just gonna kind of rub it on my hand a little bit just to make sure that, you know, it's as kind of refined as possible. And just do that over the two. And same thing with the other palette. I'll take this shade up here with a finger as well. And this is going to be a lot thinner for one thing. And I think I'll just stick a little bit kind of the inner corner as well, and try to do the same with this palette. Although again, this formula doesn't really lend itself to this. So I'm going to do a little bit more blending and maybe add a little bit more of that kind of bright green. And of course, eyeliner and mascara. But I think that's essentially the finished look. And I like looking far away, I think they do kind of read very similarly, but I think, you know, when you get up close, you can definitely kind of see the difference in the formula there. So I wonder what Mario thinks of ABH re-releasing his palette. So taking a little bit of that bright green, like I said, on my flat definer, I just want to pop a little of this underneath. Kind of go over that existing liner. Just for a little added sparkle. I don't know if that really changed the look too dramatically. All right, so I'm going to hop off camera and do my liner and mascara and probably some blush and lips, and then I will be back to give you my final thoughts. So just to quickly run through what I did, I applied the Lisa Eldridge eye pencil in ground coffee. I have on the Clinique bottom lash and then the Tarte Lights Camera Splashes. And then I also applied the Rare Beauty Bouncy Blush in the shade Worth, which is a rose, and the Edam Lip Softening Balm in Pano Chocolat, which is one of their limited edition shades. So that is everything I've done. Of course, I'll have everything linked for you down below. So what do I think of these palettes, and what do I recommend that you purchase if you were looking at these? So I think if you were always kind of pining after the Master Palette by Mario from ABH and were upset that you could never get your hands on it, I think ABH did a very good and faithful recreation of this palette. So I think for about 32 bucks, I think these are, plus if you're able to get like a 20% off code or something, I think that makes them very attainable in the beauty realm. So yeah, so I think if you were always curious and wanted to satisfy your curiosity, then I think this palette would be a good thing to pick up, especially with the Sephora sale right around the corner. I think both of these new palettes are available at Sephora. You are missing 3 of the shades, but I think I showed you in the swatches that the Mario palette actually does a good job, or has 2 shades that are very similar to 2 of the ones that are missing from the Embers palette. So in that way, you can kind of get a more well-rounded Master Palette by Mario experience. I think these are also a more modern finish. I know a lot of people complained that this didn't have quite the same effect as far as the kind of shimmery toppers as some of the earlier Ethereal Eyes palettes, but again, just comparing it to the 2016 Master Palette by Mario, I think you can definitely get a similar eye look. I did purposely use the shades that are the most similar, and for kind of earthy color stories, like, odds are you will probably be able to come up with a somewhat similar eye look no matter what palettes you use. I did also use some more of the burgundy tones in another video. I used this palette. I think it was one of my FabFitFun videos. I'll have to double check. But yeah, it might be kind of a question of whether you're interested in this color story or this palette to begin with. So I'd say on the whole that I do prefer kind of the effect and finishes of this palette from Mario, the Ethereal Eyes Nature palette, but I am aware that it is like twice the price. So if you already have like some moon dust shadows or that kind of thing, or maybe even one of the older Ethereal Eyes palettes, then maybe you can just pick up this little guy if you are interested in those kind of tones, and maybe just pop a moon dust shadow on the lid, and that way you can kind of bring that more metallic finish into 2025, if that's what you're into. So I think all of these are potentially good buys. It just depends on your preference and what you're after. But hopefully this video kind of gave you the information you need to make your purchasing decisions. If you do have any questions, be sure to leave them down below. But until next time, I hope you guys are all doing well and staying safe, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.